whether it's being the greatest at my job, whether it's being the greatest in my relationship, whether it's being the greatest just in my personal life and living my purpose. I feel like if I can stick to that one goal of being my most truthful self, then everything else sort of goes along with that.
So, office hours, Wednesday, March 24th today. This will air. Do we put these out on
Monday,
Tuesdays?
On Tuesdays, yes.
Tuesdays or okay, Tuesdays. Okay. Yeah, it's been an excellent week. Really exciting stuff. Very exciting week. We have some personnel change over in our third-party marketing group, which is exciting. And the app is out there. We're getting more downloads every day. Yesterday we had a really good day.
Awesome.
And still from Android?
Both iOS and Android.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So it's been good. Had some really good conversations the last couple days. Met with my good friend Darren Martin yesterday, who's the author of A Company of Owners, which is a book that we have many of in the office. And had a good conversation with him. Did my first Clubhouse yesterday.
Yay.
Very exciting.
So that was exciting. I think we should probably introduce some more of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's a great opportunity, just especially talking with Amanda on the recent podcast and how much she's utilized Clubhouse.
She's killing it on Clubhouse.
Right. And it's just a great way to organically talk about what we're doing here and why it's so effective and everything. So
yeah.
What was your topic yesterday on Clubhouse?
It was about it was called like Become a Better Person.
Yeah.
And so I jumped in there and it was all, be authentic and man, like you can't rely on other people to feel good. It was just so fluffy. Yeah, and I can't stand that stuff. And so I jumped on and I talked kind of about my whole spiel recently on the framework of social media and how we all try to fit into this like perfect framework of the thumbnails and the filters and it has to look like everyone else's.
Right.
But the reality of that is, anybody that's ever popped on social does something that's completely different than everybody else. So, but it was good. It was interesting. There weren't that many people, and I think there were like 8 people or something.
Yeah, that's all right.
But it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was kind of cool.
I've done Clubhouse rooms before, not too many people. Most people are shy. I raise my hand all the time. I'm like, I'll talk.
So you raise your hand to talk?
You can raise your hand to let the speakers know that you have something to say. A lot of times the speakers will just put it out there. Hey, do you got anyone want to say something or to say anything?
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll just notify you, hey, you've been invited to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll get up there. Yeah.
Interesting.
And if someone, if the speaker follows you or something, you'll be up a bump higher in the room. So there's tiers.
I have downloaded and deleted my Clubhouse app probably 5 times.
Really? Yeah. It's not an excellent app. Like it's very bare bones. It's kind of like our app. Like it does what it's supposed to do.
Right.
It's not the most amazingly put together looking app. Like,
Yeah, on one hand, I kind of like that. I kind of like that it kind of looks like the anti-social media in a way, where there's no feeds or anything. There's no curated profiles, what have you. But I also started using this other similar app called Quilt. And we want to actually reach out to the founder and people who work there. We'd love to have them on the podcast.
So you've been using it?
Yeah.
You like it?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's centered around self-development, and it's created by women. But the user experience, the user interface, it's really nice to look at.
Yeah.
They use really, really warm, calming colors and stuff like that, and they're typeface and everything is really good. So I'm telling you, the audio social media is going to blow up. It already has in a way, but I think it's going to become bigger and bigger.
it's just easier.
Looks like it.
I think about that. It's so much easier. Like we've seen, I'll record a quick, 10-minute podcast, and I can just post it. Like I have to go through and edit it and then put it on for the podcast channels, but it would be nice if I could just, like, I envision a social media where I could just record audio and then just scroll through people's like morning audios, and
That's
hear
crazy.
what's going on.
That'd be so crazy.
I like that. I think there's definitely something there.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to have nuanced conversations, which is something a lot of these other social media platforms don't have. Looking at you, Twitter. I love picking on Twitter. I just can't stand Twitter. But you can actually articulate your point in a much better, more cohesive way with audio. And also hear someone's voice, because the way they say something is much different than reading something in your own voice.
That's very true.
So I think those are all things that people are craving, and I think that's playing a role into why these things are exploding. So
Yeah, I agree. Darren asked me an interesting question yesterday, and I'm going to ask it of y'all live on the air.
Oh, God.
So
I'm gonna edit it.
It can be edited out if it goes south, but he I can't remember how exactly we got on the topic, but he was saying that somebody he knew was asking this question, and it's so simple, but he looked at me and he goes, Evan, and I'll ask it if you, I'll start with you, Brieonna. He goes, what do you want? Like, what do you want? And I looked at him and I was like, ooh, that's a really good question. And I had a great answer for him, but it was an interesting question. It was like, because it's kind of all encompassing.
Yeah.
Like, how do you put that question together? How would you answer that?
I mean, I guess if it's just like really broad, just to be happy, to live a happy life. But if I like break it down into my goals, to buy a house, to plan a successful wedding.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a large question.
You know what I love about those are good answers, and what I love about this question is that I think so many times we get caught, and I speak from my own experience. Like I get so caught up in the planning phases of like goals and like how I'm going to do it all and where it's going to happen and all that, and not enough times am I reminding myself throughout the day like exactly what I'm shooting for. Like it's easy for me to look at that vision. Yeah. But there's never really like a thing that I'm saying to myself to get myself to think about it. That's the perfect thing. Like, what do you want? Okay, I want to buy the house. I want to plan the wedding. I want to do, you know what I mean? Like it's a good reminder. What would you say to that?
What do I want?
What do you want?
I know.
I want to become my most truest self.
Of course.
I don't know if that's the most, that's actually a word, truest, but the greatest version of myself, which is, I believe, always being in my truth. And I think by doing that, all these other things in my life will come together. The income that I want, all the material things that I want, the happiness, the everything, it comes down to, am I living my truest self? Am I expressing myself in the most honest way? And I feel like when I don't do that, I'm being held back in so many different ways, whether it's being the greatest at my job, whether it's being the greatest in my relationship, whether it's being the greatest just in my personal life and living my purpose. I feel like if I can stick to that one goal of just being my most truthful self, then everything else sort of goes along with that.
That's a great answer.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
That's a really good answer. My answer was I want to be the number one like reaction that people go to when people think about a job or hiring. Like I want HiredUp to be household knowledge. Like I want us to be the one that like when we get a job, we use this app. Right. There's no other way to do it. I want a Super Bowl ad. I spent like 20 minutes answering him. Yeah. So I want.
Is that what you said in that answer?
Yeah.
What do you want? That's what you want for your company.
That is what I want though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I get a lot out of that. Yeah. And to me, like, to you guys, the company is this third party that you you come to and you work and you're extremely invested in it. To me, this business is an extension of me.
Yeah.
Like, this is my child.
Right.
Like, this is what I do.
Right.
And so, the things that happen in this business on a day-to-day basis and the long-term things, these are all personal goals that I have.
Right.
These are personal visions that are attached to Evan, not
Right.
just to the company.
That makes sense.
So,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really good. I like that a lot.
yeah.
Yeah. Did he elaborate any more on that? Like, did he say what he wanted or anything? Or was he just saying, like, just big picture, just throw out what you want?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much nuance that you could go into
Yeah.
when it comes to a question like that. And he was pretty high level with it. But one thing that he did say, and he mentioned this again on the Clubhouse last night, was he, a couple of years ago, was at a hotel, and the lady that was checking him in said, "Hi, sir, how are you today?" He goes, "I'm doing great. How are you?" And she said, "I'm good. Thank you so much for asking." And he goes, "I'm sorry, I have to just ask you, why did you say that to me?" And she said, "This morning," she said, "it's only 10:30 in the morning. I've already checked in 200 guests." She goes, "You're the second person that's asked me how I am today."
Oh.
And she said, a couple minutes ago, I was checking this guy in, and he walked up, or I'm sorry, this is a different story. I'm getting off track.
Oh,
but that was story number one.
Okay.
The second one, this happened to him multiple times. The second one was a hostess at a restaurant. Same thing happened. She said, "I'm doing great. I really appreciate you asking." And he said the same thing. "I have to ask, why say that?" She said, "I had a guy come in here about 10 minutes ago that he walked in the door, and I said, 'Hi, good evening. How are you today?' And he said, 5. Like, we need a table for 5.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
nothing else,
Yeah.
just 5. And so then it happened to him again at a grocery store. This happens to him all the time. And, so we were talking a lot about that because we get caught up in the, like, we like to ask, "Hey, how you doing?" Like, very quick question or very quick answer, because we don't really care. And you know what? It's kind of okay that sometimes we don't care, because, like, we don't have to care how everybody's doing. But we do need to be a little bit more intentional about when we ask those things.
Yeah.
Like, he asked me, he got, like, really deep. And I haven't seen him in a while, but he's like, "So give me, like, the day to day, what's really hard right now? What's going on? What are the successes, the wins?" And I was like, man, it's great. Like, I love it when people ask me that stuff, because people ask me all the time, like, "How's HiredUp? What's going on? How's the business? How's that?" And then, it's like, there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of depth to that, which it's okay. Like, a lot of times I don't really want to go into all the deep parts of it. But you know how people always say the sweetest sound to somebody is their own name? Well, I don't really think that's true. I think that the sweetest sound to somebody is when you're actually asking them intentional questions about them.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on in your life? Like, what do you want? What are you going for right now? Like, hey, how can I help you with that? Or, I don't know. I don't think we pay enough attention to each other. I don't think we realize that we're all kind of running the same race here. And too many times we get caught up in using "how are you" as a greeting, and less of a, not enough as a question. It's not enough of a question. And again, like I said, it is okay not to care about what other people have going on.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
especially every single person you come in contact with.
Well, I don't care about I care about people, but, like, I don't want to know everyone's life story, every single person that I meet throughout the day.
Right.
But it's kind of a mental shift of, okay, well, when I meet those people, then I'm not going to ask them, "Hey, how are you today?" Maybe I'm just going to say, something else.
Right.
"Hey, it's good to see you. Thanks so much." Yeah.
So I worked in the hospitality industry for a long time, so I really relate to all this stuff.
Yeah.
But even before that, for some reason, I was always this person, even when I was younger, where people would just naturally come up to me and start telling me, like, their secrets or their life story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for whatever reason, I put out with my energy that I'm open to receiving this, and I was not always open to receiving it. And sometimes, but the thing is, sometimes people just want to feel like they're being heard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't always have that in their family, in their personal life. They're always outputting.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when I was working in the hospitality industry, when I was working in bartending, it's like the old cliche of, these guys or these women, at the bar telling me their life story or telling me things that their spouse doesn't know about them because they have no one else to talk to. And on one hand, I could be like, oh, geez, I have so much to do. On the other hand, I could take that opportunity to just be and listen, and sometimes you don't even have to say anything.
Yep.
They just want to
talk.
They just want to talk. And sometimes that's so relieving to them.
Yeah.
So, kind of being mindful of those opportunities when you ask someone, hey, how you doing? But really, how you doing? And sometimes they'll open up, and sometimes they'll say stuff that feels good to just let it out. And so I think, as we go throughout our day, sometimes just a smile as you're walking by, you never know what someone's day is like. It can immediately shift their entire day.
Mm-hmm.
Just the smallest little thing.
Couldn't agree more.
And, all that's reciprocal, by the way. What you put out there is going to come right back to you.
Right.
So I think that's a great point that you brought up.
And also asking more pointed questions of people.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how are you doing? You can really mean that. But a better question might be, like you right now, hey, how's it going with, did they accept this offer on your house? Like more pointed questions, you know what I mean? Like, and there's people, what's interesting is that I feel like many times the people that we really like in life are the people that do that to us. Like the people that we really enjoy being around. One of the reasons, if we really examined it, it's because they ask us really good questions. Right. It's because they allow us to talk about ourselves a little bit, and they're interesting. We're interested in them. They're interested in us. Like, it's just not a transactional relationship,
Of course.
I'm going to make it a point to do that more. Ask more pointed questions.
Ask more pointed questions. Yeah. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions.
Yeah.
Think about it. I mean, if we never asked somebody to be on our podcast, we would have no podcast.
Right.
If I never asked people that I was recruiting for sales jobs why they felt like they were undervalued through a resume, none of us would be sitting here. So it's like every single time that we ask a question, it sort of like determines a little bit more. It adds another brick to, the quality of our life. It's so true.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't really go very far if you're not curious about anything.
No.
Yeah.
Very true. Well, also, you have been talking about this idea of Club 515.
Yeah, Club 515.
515.
Damn it,
515. I read it. Which I think is really interesting. So the idea is waking up every single day for 30 days.
Mm-hmm. Why would you guys want to wake up? Like, why do you, what are your thoughts? This is a better question. Well, here's an even better question. What are your thoughts when it comes to waking up? Like, what goes through your head? Is it like, oh, I'm going to wake up really early, I'm going to wake up a little later? Like, what is kind of the consensus individually on, like, what does waking up mean to you? Is it whether that's early or late? Like, I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts are in the space of the morning time.
I'm not a morning person, so it's a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I try to be. I push myself to be a morning person.
Yeah.
And I think it's just more beneficial for my morning routine if I am.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like a struggle to wake up early.
Yeah.
Me.
Well, and I think, of course, when I was younger, I was always like my little brother is now, where, during the summers or whatever, waking up at 1 or 2
my gosh. Yeah.
p.m., you know. But a lot of that has to do is when you go to bed. And so, you know, the times that I do wake up later than 5:15 or something, it's usually because I went to sleep later.
Late.
And then I have to tell myself, listen, I want to wake up early, but I also want to prioritize my sleep. Because if I don't, it sets me back days, you know, to catch up with that. So my number one priority is getting enough sleep. Number 2 is waking up early, because like you've talked about many, many times, having that me time, having that recharge time, doing our, you know, personal development practices, whatever that looks like, getting ready for the day, and doing it at a time when it's really quiet and really just, there's not a lot going on. Like the birds are out. That's about it. Yeah. You know, and I think that peace and quiet and just being able to not worry about anything else other than yourself, it's just such a recharge that helps you throughout your entire day. And having that mindset and, you know, working on all of that stuff and your personal stuff. Like we all do things outside of the company as well, like in our personal life or side hustle or whatever.
Right.
That's the time to do that, you know, and to really ponder about stuff and to, you know, I do my journaling practice and things like that. It's just so beneficial during that time. And your mind is so acute when you wake up in the morning. And so writing down that stuff, and that's the best time for thinking and daydreaming and doing all these things, because your mind is so awake and not kind of dampered by the day and dampered by all these different things coming at you. So it's like kind of a clean slate. And so that's why I like waking up early.
I think that's good. Those are good answers. You know, I think it's sort of a different reason for everybody. Sometimes it's more about the time, right? Like I know for a lot of new parents, waking up early isn't even necessarily about like the mindful practice. It's more about like, hey, I just need I don't have enough hours in the day. Like I need more time. And so I think it's a different answer for everybody. But I think to some effect, I mean, like, look, we as humans are meant to wake up early. Like we rise with the sun and we go to bed with the sunset. And so, you know, granted right now, like, you know, I'll wake up and go do a million things before the sun comes up because just daylight savings and all that kind of stuff. However, it's kind of like a clean diet. Like I really don't think there's a person on this earth that wouldn't benefit from a clean diet. There's not a person on this earth that wouldn't benefit from more time in their day. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. So to answer your question, Club 515 is just, again, I don't know exactly how that's going to look yet, like where that community is going to be. But it's basically, in my head, just going to be a group of people that all want to wake up at an early time. And we do some kind of check-in and conversations about it and things like that. Because I think it's like a superpower to wake up early. I mean, it really is. I remember when I was an intern years ago, I used to show up at the office and, you know, I'd talk to people and they're like, oh yeah, I got out of bed late this morning. I just got up, 45 minutes ago. And I was like, dude, I've been up for like 4.5 hours. Like I've done so much stuff today. And I remember thinking this is a superpower. Like the fact that I can do all of that early in the morning. And so, with 515, we'll talk a lot about what do you do first thing in the morning? Like I was talking to, did I talk about the position thing on office hours last week? Maybe this was just Josh.
I think so.
So, in ballet, I know this because my sister danced ballet when she was little, but you have like first position, second position, all of that. And then in guitar, because I play guitar, in the scales, we have, positions 1 through 5. And so many times when people wake up in the morning, they don't know exactly what to do. And I was having a conversation with a friend last week about this. She's like, I don't know what to do. Like I wake up early and then I just kind of wander around my house like, well, why did I get up this early? Like I could be asleep. There's nothing to do. No one's awake. There's no one to talk to. So what am I supposed to do? And so you have to figure out like, what are your missions when you wake up in the morning? What are your goals? Because if you have a friend or a trainer at the gym and they're going to meet you there at 6 a.m., you're not so much worried about missing your workout. You're more worried about letting them down.
Yeah.
And so the nice thing about that is that you have a mission to accomplish the first thing when you wake up. So whether or not you went to bed at 10 o'clock and woke up at 5 and got great sleep, or went to bed at midnight and woke up at 5 and didn't get good sleep, you're still going to be there because you don't want to let that person down. And so I like this idea of position. So like my first position in the morning is once I wake up, I get a cup of coffee, I get all my books, I sit down on my couch in the same place. And like once I reach over and take that first sip of coffee and open that book, that's like the signal that we have begun. Like we're not going back to sleep. This is the first position of my day. And so it kind of sets this posture for the rest of the day of productivity. And then, I have a system, like I have a routine that I run the rest of the morning. But it's the place that I go every morning, no matter what, that, kind of signals like the day has begun. And so it needs to be defined. Like I think we all wake up sometimes. If you're confused about waking up early, it may be because you're waking up and you don't have anything to do. Like you're doing different things in the morning.
Yeah. So I need to find my first position.
Yeah, what's your first position?
Yeah.
What's the first thing that you do in the morning? Where's the first place that you go? And, attach it to some bigger goals. Like for me, I'm reading books, and then I'm in the gym, and I'm, like there's all these things that I do in the morning that are getting me closer and closer towards, bigger visions. Right. And that first position is like the signal of, okay, now we've begun. This is the place that we start. So, this is different for everybody, but people that do that practice waking up early, every single day, usually every one of them has a chair or a couch that they sit on every day. Like Darren has a chair in his office that like when he wakes up, that's exactly where he goes. So, yeah.
Do you drink water before you drink that coffee?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So there's some people, they just drink coffee as their first beverage in the morning, and that just ruins your stomach.
I can be bad about that, but I try to drink water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll drink a full bottle of water before.
Yeah.
I try to
do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Recharge yourself, Yeah, and I also think what helps too, you don't necessarily, I do agree that having that same position every day is very, very helpful and programs your mind. But also have before you go to bed, I think I briefly touched on this, like writing down what it is you want to accomplish that day, or maybe just some questions you might be seeking answers to or whatever before you go to bed, and you write that down. I'm telling you, it's magic. When you wake up and you're in that clear state of mind, you'll have your answers. You'll be able to start going down that path. So
I agree with you. I think another thing too that needs to be more focused is in our life we're meant to have companionship, right? Like we have people around us. However, humans to some level crave some level of solitude. And so I think it's important for, people in relationships, if you're married or living with somebody, you need to have some alone time there. And I think in the morning, it's actually very important because it's the time that's the most quiet. It's the most intentional. It's time where you're doing the things that are important to you. Like they're things that are meaningful to you, whether it's a book or prayer or whatever it is. They're things that are your own journey, your own relationship with yourself. And so, it's easy for two people to wake up at the same time and just immediately be in each other's lives. And like you're doing a morning routine together and all of these things are happening at the same time. And I think that's very dangerous.
Yeah. And
I think that the time that you wake up is important to that. I have a friend that called me the other day. He said, I've been really good about waking up early in the morning. And he said, I've been getting up early in the morning. I'm like in the Word, and it's been fantastic. He goes, but the other day I woke up about 45 minutes late, and his fiance, he said she woke up and started making breakfast, and I just went, well, I guess I'm done now. And, so it's so easy to do that because, you want to be with that person, and, it's like you have to, especially if you're in a smaller place, like you can't just leave. well, you can, but like if
Yeah.
you're trying to get ready and stuff. So, you know, I think there needs to be some solitude time there in the morning. I mean,
I like that.
if you can have 3 to 4 hours of time just by yourself, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, oh my gosh, it's just so powerful. I know you believe in this.
Yeah, this is my bread and butter. I'm so glad you brought this up because I do think well, first of all, I'll start with, I think part of the reason why some people don't know what to do in the morning is because they haven't practiced that solitude. They're so used to being around someone else, doing what someone else is doing, talking with someone.
Yep.
Someone's always around. And sometimes they get nervous or they get scared when they're alone.
Yeah. And I have to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Please remember that. I need you to finish. But do you notice how so many people, like, they're terrified of being alone to the point that they'll wake up in the morning and instantly they're on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, they have to have other people around right away.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's totally true. It's totally true. And luckily, this was something that I practiced for several years before I got in this current relationship I'm in. And so I'm in a relationship with someone who does also practice that solitude.
Yeah.
And so as we're getting this house together, we're getting a bigger house because, and this may not be for everyone, and I totally get it, but we want separate bedrooms. We want our own space. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, here's my sanctuary, here's your sanctuary. We have our own morning routines. She has her very intricate morning routine, as do I. And sometimes those things overlap and sometimes they don't with the, what we're doing.
Yeah.
But that time alone is just so important to both of us.
Yeah.
And to be able to be in our own space, do our own thing, and be able to then come into the relationship with a full battery, with a full recharge. I think it helps the relationship so much.
So I think many will have questions on this. You need to give more detail there. I want to know more. So like, do you just go, all right, good night, and then just retire to your separate quarters?
I mean, again, like we haven't lived together yet.
Yeah.
So that's an important note for anyone listening.
Right.
It's not like we've been practicing this in an apartment or anything.
Yeah.
We've been living separately. We have complete separate lives, and we come into this relationship and we come together.
We're both really independent people.
Very independent, and it's something that's really important to us, and to the point where we're cognizant a lot of times, are we hanging out too much together? Like, like we need to take some recharge time.
Yeah.
And be with our own friends and our own people and just be with our own selves. And so I don't know exactly what that looks like yet.
Yeah.
But we do know that we have talked about it and we do want separate bedrooms. Now, that doesn't mean, whatever.
Right.
But it just means that I have my own designated place to go.
Sure.
And she does as well.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
Be able to utilize that.
Right.
Whenever we see necessary.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
that makes
I get
perfect
that.
sense. What's interesting too, and I like that because I think that one of the stresses in the morning is like, okay, I'm going to start waking up early. My partner doesn't wake up early, so I have to kind of disrupt what I'm doing to tiptoe around and be really quiet. And I got to make sure the coffee maker's quiet, and then I've got to, make sure I put headphones in and this and that. And it's like, those are a lot of things. So I totally get it.
Yeah. So, we'll see how it goes. I'll definitely update as we go along.
I'm interested to see how.
I'm very interested. And you know what I see? So I think people could apply that. Maybe people that don't want separate bedrooms, I think what people could take from that, if they didn't want to quite go that far, was if you have one bedroom, have separate offices. Use 2 bedrooms, like you have your office, I have my office. I've got all my stuff in here, my books, my chair, my, all of these things that I spend my morning or my alone time in that I can go to where I can make as much noise as I want and, all that kind of thing.
Totally. I think having designated spaces for yourself, whatever that looks like, is super important. I'm not saying you have to get a man cave or something like
Right.
that, you know, or whatever. But
they bought houses next door to each other.
yeah. Well, you know, it's kind of like I say that to people, and they kind of get reminded of, like, I don't know, the 1950s or something, when like all those sitcoms and stuff would used to have, they couldn't show two people in the same bed.
Yeah.
They would have like two separate twin beds in the same room or whatever. But like I said, I do think there is such, because in relationships, I see it happen all the time where people are around each other literally all the time.
Yep.
And even if there is a lot of love and there's a lot of commitment and there's a lot of, you know, all these great things in the relationship, they're not taking that time to recharge and be in solitude, and it ends up affecting the relationship.
Sure.
And so we're just very cognizant of that.
Right.
And
I think it's smart.
Yeah.
I mean, think back in ancestral times. I mean, there was very close family, but also there was very significant separation for large portions of the day and sometimes weeks.
Right.
You know, so
and you have more to talk about. You know,
Yeah.
if you're around each other all the time, well,
you know everything.
You know what I did today? Yeah, because I was there.
Yep.
So because y'all are so independent, are you like nervous at all moving in together and kind of like bridging those two lives, so to speak?
Well, there's always a sense of, you know, I wouldn't say nervous is the right word, but, you know, when you're doing something for the first time, there's always some sort of something there.
Right.
But it just feels right. And like I said, one of the other things is that we didn't need to get into a relationship.
Yeah.
I was completely fine and she was completely fine being independent, and we really loved being just alone and single and enjoying that life. So this opportunity came at a time when we both had no absolute need for it. And I think that in of itself,
like a perfect place to be.
That in of itself, I think, set the kind of foundation for the relationship, to the point where when I was younger, I was always the heart on your sleeve boy who would just rush into things. And as soon as a girl looked at me like, all right, let's do this, you know?
Sealed the deal.
Right. Yeah. To the point where I had spent so much time alone that I was actually the weary one in the relationship. And she was the complete opposite. She was always the weary one in getting into a relationship. And in this particular instance was like, let's you know, she was more forward than she was normally. So it was kind of like the two balances, you know? And so we also set relationship intentions before we got into it.
Okay.
And I think that was something that was important as well. It's like, why do I want to be, I mean, how often do people ask that?
Yeah.
When they, like, why do I want this? You know, it's not something that I need. So we set these intentions, and then we look back at them this past year, and we make adjustments or whatever, just to keep on track. Like, are we on the same path? Are we actually hitting these goals? Are we actually, you know, doing these things together? So, I
Very
mean,
mindful.
Exactly. You know, like, there's a purpose there, and I think that's important as well.
That's so good. I think you know, when we're in pursuit of a relationship, we have a mission and a goal, right? And we're excited in that journey because we're going somewhere. You know, we're headed towards dating and engagement and marriage, and then, you know, kids, and, like, you know, there's at the beginning, you know, 10 years or less, you know, there's a lot of big monumental things to run towards.
Yeah.
And, you know, same thing in a job. It's like in the beginning, like, you're trying to do all these big things and knock down all these big barriers. And man, I just think it's so important. Like what you said, it's so important to have, just like we have a mission and a place that we're going and goals to accomplish in our companies and our personal lives. You have to do that in your relationships.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you have to have it in a relationship to where you think, okay, we have some goals here that we're trying to accomplish together. Like, we're trying to achieve these missions together. we need to be working towards this. Because when you don't, and you've kind of just achieved all the things that you wanted in the beginning, which are all normal, like, you know, dating and marriage and all of that, you kind of end up at a point and go, okay, well, now what do I do? Like, now what's the exciting? You know, I speak from a lot of, you know, I was engaged twice. And so I speak from a lot of, you know, like feeling this of, okay, well, you know, now what happens? Like, you know, we don't really have any goals together or things things that we want to achieve together. And I think that's so important. I think the intentionality behind, we put a lot of intention into planning and perfecting our personal lives and, you know, our own goals and our businesses and our jobs, but we don't do that in our relationships. And like, there's nothing else in our lives that can affect our mental health, our spiritual health, our physical health, every part of us, either negatively or positively, like a relationship will.
Yeah.
Totally.
So we need to be very mindful of that.
Totally.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just having pointed conversations, like we talked earlier, pointed questions, because, you know, as a couple or being in a relationship, you can kind of talk about your goals, and you can, like, day to day just kind of bring up some things that you want to aspire to. But I think until you, like, have a sit down conversation and say, like, hey, these are kind of some things I'm wanting to do. What are you wanting to do?
Yep.
Let's make sure we're working on our individual goals and our goals that we have together. And just having that conversation, because I don't think people have that conversation. It's brought up in day to day kind of, but you're not necessarily both on the same page of this is what I want. And in order to have a successful relationship, you have to grow together. So you have to know each other's goals.
You got it.
And you have someone to check you on your on your
Keep you
personal
accountable.
goals, keep you accountable. And just like what we said with the 515, it's like, okay, now I really have to do this because this person's going to be on me for it.
Right.
You know, so all plays a role, you know. And
My best friend Tobin, him and his wife every Sunday, he has an excellent marriage, and him and his wife every Sunday, they have, like, it's the kind of their planning day. So, like, they get all their food ready for, you know, the next couple days, and they, like, do all their laundry, and they just kind of mentally prepare for the week. And then they have their, like, marriage check-in. It's like they literally sit down at the table.
I've heard
and
of
they
this.
talk about how were we this week? You know, was there this is the space that, like, was there something that happened that I said or I did that bothered you? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about things that you did great. Like, I want to just, like, say, like, I loved it when you did that.
Yeah.
Do more of that.
Oh yeah.
They check in on their finances. They sit down with a spreadsheet and go, here's where we're at.
Oh my
here's what we
gosh.
spent. Here's where we're going.
That's
this is what
great.
we're trying
That's
to do.
awesome.
And so they have kind of just this moment. And you know what else that does? Man, I'm so passionate about this. There's so many times that throughout the week or throughout the course of a relationship for any period of time, things will come up that bother us or that we feel like that have urgency that we need to talk about. And we say them out of passion, right? And if you have, what I love about how Tobin does this is, you know, they have this space at the end of the week. And so if something on a Wednesday rubs his wife the wrong way or rubs him the wrong way, he can go, you know what? This isn't like a gigantic thing.
Right.
This is the perfect thing to bring up in our Sunday meeting. So I'm going to save that for that time. And I would venture to guess that 90% of the time, by the time Sunday rolls around, it's not even, they have better perspective.
Right.
And it's like, you know what? That was a me issue.
Yeah.
Like that was me being offended because of, you know, just insecurity or whatever. And, you know, it gives such a great space. And, you know, you don't have to be in a relationship to do that. You can do that with yourself.
Right.
You know, hey, how was I as a I don't know, a brother, a sister, an employee this week? Like, how, you know, did I do a good job? Was I a good leader this week? Like, was I a good boss? Was I this, that?
That's actually a really good idea too, because I was one of the people who were like, if I wake up at 5:15 on the weekends, what do I do? You know? So I kind of like that, just kind of taking inventory of your week. Just at a personal level too, and just kind of saying, like, what did I do well? What could I do differently? Like, what can I improve upon? You
know what's funny is, so when I'm flying somewhere, it is a constant measurement of exactly where I'm going. So there is not a moment in that flight that I don't have an eye on exactly where my destination is, how quickly I'm getting there, where are my winds coming from? Is it throwing me off course? Like, am I sure that destination is where I'm headed? Like, I'm constantly checking that. I'm very, very mindful of exactly where I'm going. And in life, we kind of just get in the motions. We don't really do that check-in. Like, we sort of just like run the system on autopilot. And at some point we pick our heads up and go, geez, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah.
And so having that weekly, like having that weekly check-in is like, it's intention, man. It's like, where am I going? How am I doing? Am I going the places that I need to go? What do I need to adjust right now? Do I have an in-flight correction this week? I mean, think about this. If you have 52 check-in in-flight corrections over the course of a year, as opposed to one, which is what most people have. Most people have one.
Which is New Year's.
Yep. If you can have 51 more times to course correct and make sure you're headed in the right direction, think about how that can change your life.
That's so
well, and also the relationship you have with yourself is the relationship you have with other people.
Yeah.
So that's your most important relationship is with yourself, if we're constantly lying to ourselves about stuff or, all these things, that plays out into every interaction that we ever have.
Yep.
So that's always priority number one is the better relationship you have with yourself, the better relationship you'll have with your significant other.
Right.
And so forth. So
I feel like it's kind of taken me a while to realize that too, because I'm such a people pleaser and like just want to do for others all the time. So like I haven't ever stepped back and taken inventory of myself and where I'm at and yes, my goals to an extent, but not just spending that time alone.
Yeah. It's true. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to actually be intentional about. It's hard enough to be intentional about like actually following the goals and the plan. And it's really hard to have, because it's a secondary, it's like a phase 2 goal, now we have, so you wanted the Sunday check-in thing. Okay, well now we have to have the goal of every Sunday at 4 p.m. we have this check-in.
Mm-hmm. Keeping yourself accountable to doing it.
You can't miss it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's things like that in my life that I definitely, am constantly working on, because there's things that I do that sometimes I don't do, and it's like, no. This is the thing that matters. Like this is it's what I talk about all the time, the endurance. Like it's not the acute difficulty that knocks people out of the race. It's the endurance.
Yeah. After you're like a month in, how do you keep going month after month?
You got it.
'Cause you kind of hit that fatigue point by month and you're like, I got to keep going.
Yeah. 100%.
I mean, it's crazy that, for me, we had the New Year's Day, New Year's Eve sort of check-in, me and my significant other relationship, by the way. Kombucha, delicious. But we listed out all these goals for the year that we want, and even 5 years out and everything. And one of those goals was to get a house. We knew nothing on January 1st about this whole process.
Yep.
We had family members that had done it before, obviously. And, as of now, and it's not even April yet, and we had already put our first offer in on the house. We didn't get it, but we actually put that offer in. We've gone through this whole process already to do something that we've never done before. And it all started with that intention and that open communication. So, it's just so important. And I'm glad we get to have these conversations, by the way.
Yeah.
Me too.
Same.
I'm so grateful for this. This is a good check-in for us. I mean, this is a built-in check-in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we went through a period of time to where it was like, oh, we missed office hours this week.
Yeah.
And now it's like, we're religious about it.
Right.
Whether
Keeping each other accountable.
Yeah. I mean, today it happened at noon. Last week it happened at 3. It really doesn't matter. But like doing it, carving out that time is very big.
Yeah.
Right.
Very big.
I agree.
Yeah.
So to bring that back to Club 515, I'm looking forward to, I guess just keeping myself accountable every single day, 7 days a week of I'm waking up at this time.
Yeah.
You know, and just kind of the endurance part, like after day 7, whenever, you know, I kind of don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Just pushing myself and keep going to 30 days.
You know what's interesting, Brieonna, is I love that you said that, but what I'll say is that waking up early isn't really like other goals, in the sense that the more you do it, the easier it gets. So, you know, with a lot of things, you're super excited about it at the beginning, and you do it with like tenacity.
Right.
And then as time goes on, you let yourself slide. With waking up, it's extremely difficult at the beginning. And then by day 5 or 6, you're like, this is just who I am now.
Well, you just,
You know?
sometimes you won't even set your alarm. You just get up at that time, you know, because your
Yeah.
body gets used to that.
That's when you're really in tune.
Yeah. Well, and also it can be a really fun thing to do, like to post on social media, to talk about how hard it is.
Right.
You know, to post like, I don't really want to wake up today.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it.
Exactly.
You know, and people can relate to that. And people like that. And so it could actually help.
I
You know.
agree.
I need to
Social
figure
media
out one thing we'll talk about too is, and you're going to help us with this, because I have a very bad alarm system in my house, because I'll put my phone in the kitchen with an alarm, and then I have an alarm clock that I have to get up and get. So I have to get up and hit 2 alarms, but it's not a nice, you know, relaxing coming out of sleep time.
You
It's
gotta
like,
get the birds.
it's like alarm.
No. I've
It's
tried
emergency.
both ways. I've tried, you know, calming music in the morning, and I've tried like, you know,
Alarm.
siren going off outside.
Please, no, don't do that. You'll wake up in a stressful state that'll carry with you the entire day.
But I noticed that, like, this morning was a perfect example. I got up, and then I'm standing there, and I'm like, you know, like panicked. Like, what just happened? And I was thinking, man, if I could actually wake up relaxed and just sort of like make my way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't want one of those alarm clocks that listens to me, or that has a little camera.
Oh, what?
Like the
I haven't
Amazon
heard of that.
Echo, like the Echo and the
Oh,
Google and all that
geez.
crap. Like, I don't
No
want that stuff.
Amazon, no Google, no Facebook.
I don't want them in my house. I told you the other day I was thinking about something and an ad popped up for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a coincidence. Had to be, but
Yeah.
You never know.
You never know. Yeah. Neuralink coming soon.
Yeah.
But yeah.
what is the most important thing that each of you is working on right now? Whether it's company or personal.
Personal, I would probably say like wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
big
lot.
one. That's a big
been
one.
time suck. And like I'm just not a planner, like a wedding planner or an event planner or anything like that. So that's probably like goal number 1.
Yeah.
Also too, just like smaller goals of like making it to the gym 5 days a week.
By the way, I want to praise you for a second.
Seriously.
You have been crushing it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
With the gym. Like, I see your post every day.
Yeah.
Like, you are relentless.
Well, and that's how I keep
It's amazing.
myself accountable, is by posting it on social
Of course.
media.
Yeah. You're there every day.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. And I've heard you say that there have been many times that you don't want to do it.
Oh yeah.
And you go
This
anyways.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, you've done a really great
Or
job
other
with
times
that.
when you didn't want to do it, and then Hayden's like, "Yeah, let's
I
do
know.
it."
Yeah.
And that gets you to
St.
do it.
Patrick's Day, I wanted to go have a
Right.
margarita on the patio, but I ended up going to the
Yeah.
gym. which
That's
we were good
awesome.
for.
That's
Yeah.
cool. The consistency. It's the endurance.
Yeah.
It's not the acute activity. It's the sustained activity over a long period of
Exactly.
time. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's really just putting myself out there more.
Yeah.
With the, here and also in my personal life as well. And because every single time I do that, I get good feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've
Every
done a
single
great job
time.
at that as well.
But a lot of times I'll get the good feedback and then I won't do anything. I won't try to build on that momentum.
Right.
Yeah.
And also it's also compounding, because I know it's something that Shayna wants to do herself, and she's way less outgoing than me in that regard, and putting her voice out there and putting herself out there. And so I also feel not only do I need to kind of pave the path for myself,
Yeah.
but it will help her if I do that with her personal stuff that she wants to do, and she wants to put herself out there. And if she sees me doing that and kind of laying the groundwork,
right,
that will help her, and that will help us.
Yep.
yeah.
And then all these other things. So it just kind of starts with me.
Yeah.
That's great.
And
have you thought about doing like a couples conversation?
Well, I wanted, to start doing something around that, because we both get questions all the time about our relationship.
Yeah.
And sometimes we say things and people don't believe us. And so I'm like, well, this is what it is, So I think just putting ourselves out there might help people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people have just a certain narrow perspective on what something is. Mm-hmm. And if they see someone else or two people doing something a little bit differently, it may open something for them.
Right.
And so I think that would be very, very beneficial. So
I like that.
Yeah.
That's
What
good.
about you? What are your goals?
What was the question? What did I ask?
I think the question was, what are your goals?
What am I working? What was the question?
What are
we
you all working
on?
on, personal or work?
Yeah, personal life.
What are you working on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what the question was? Do you remember?
Yeah, what were you working on, personal or work-related?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, work-related, it's becoming a better leader of people. I'm constantly learning stuff. Like one big thing for me has been time management. It's like I get so sucked into and this is just work and personal.
Yeah.
I get so sucked into what I'm doing that I just completely not even lose track of time. I sort of consciously just put other things off.
Sure.
Right.
So I need to be better about that, and that's what I'm working on. And then, leading people is hard. The people is the hardest part about business by far. Just because it's not even leading good people. It's finding the right people and making sure they're the right people, which is cool because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Trying to get the awareness out there of our app. So, I think the biggest thing for me is being dynamic, because I have to go be very, very technical and precise in the dev department over there. We're very precise and very narrow, and we have to put this button here, and this has to talk to this database. And then within 3 minutes, I come over here and we're shooting content. It's just a free for all.
Yeah.
So it's very,
funny.
And then, 10 minutes later, I have to go talk with Jack about, every single budgeting thing for the next 3 months and all of that. And then I have to go speak to an investor about a new opportunity that they've got. So it's just, there's so many dynamics of my day, which makes it really fun. And then personally, just, I'm still in the gym a lot, and that's been a blast. So
Yeah.
Awesome.
that's what I'm working on.
Well, even just the short time that I've been here, I've seen you grow in just that and becoming an even better leader. And
Thank you.
I see you working on it, and it really does have an effect on the rest of us. So we appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys. Grateful for y'all.
Thanks.
We have a great team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a great team.
Yeah.
This is an awesome team.
Agreed.
All right. Well, that was a good one. That was 1 hour.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool. Office hours. I don't know, episode 7?
Episode 7. Yes.
Episode 7, March
Check it out.
24th.
Guys, let us, if you have any feedback on these episodes, or if they've, helped you in any way. I don't know any other company with an app that is doing podcasts as deep as this.
I agree.
So we're providing we're just putting ourselves out there and doing what comes naturally. So if you've ever gained anything from it, let us know. Rate us on Spotify and Apple Music and everything like that. So let us know how we're doing.
Definitely. All right. We'll see you next week.